Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the Teal Teardown Hockey Podcast. I'm your host Dave, and we're here to tear down the latest games, news, and stories for the San Jose Sharks. I thank you for listening wherever you are. I appreciate you being here with me today. Now, we're 9 games in the season, and so far things couldn't have gone any worse. I know we all expected that the team was going to struggle this year. They were definitely going to be another lottery pick team, but we did not expect things to go pretty much the same as last year. They're now winless in 9 games as I speak on October 27th. They have 2 points from overtime losses, but they continue to struggle with getting goals and just getting anything going with momentum at all. As a matter of fact, they actually broke a record last night in a bad way. In 9 games, this is the first time in NHL history that a team has gone back-to-back seasons 0-9 without a win. And they actually were tied with the Bruins the last game, where the 1960-61 and 1961-62 Bruins were 0-8 going back-to-back in their first 2 seasons. And yeah, the Sharks are just in a completely big tailspin right now. Now, the reason I think that the Sharks are in this situation, one of the biggest reasons at least, is their penalty troubles. They seem to, they're not skating at all. It almost seems like a snowballing effect where they go down a goal or they just feel like they have to do more, and they panic when they lose the puck, and they'll, instead of using their legs to skate their way out of the situation, they'll use their stick and trip somebody or hook somebody, and they end up getting a penalty. As of right now, they're averaging 4.5 penalties per game in the first 9 games. So that's about 9 minutes, a minimum of 9 minutes a game that you're giving your opponent to have a chance to score on you on the power play. And it's just an unsustainable effect. Now, there are some penalty kills that the Sharks look pretty good, but obviously there's a lot of opportunities where the Sharks have given power play goals up. As of right now, they've let in about 10 power play goals in the season, so that's a 1 power play goal a game, over 1 power play goal a game so far. And like I said, that's not sustainable, especially with a team that's having so much trouble scoring. Really what we're seeing is the first line is the only line that's generating anything good, which is mostly has been Eklund, Granlund, and Toffoli. Eklund has just been a monster this season. At least that's the one bright spot. You really are seeing that this is his breakout season where he's showing that his skill and his talent level, and also his aggression, which I really like to see. He's not afraid to go in front of the net. Defensemen are pushing him around and he's pushing back. He's not afraid, and there's a lot more confidence that he's playing with this season. So that is one bright spot we are seeing. Granlund, we're asking a lot for him. He's a first line center right now. He's probably best fitted as a third line center on a really good team. So, but considering what he's doing, he's generating offense. He has 9 points in 9 games. He is also getting a lot of penalties on the other hand as well. But again, because his skill level, he's playing like the best of the best, he's going to be doing some sloppy things. Now, Will Smith as well has been struggling, which is expected. Obviously, it's his first year. He's only 19 years old. They're expecting him to play center. Right now, he's on the third line. There were some games he was on the second line center. So it's not really a surprise that he's still kind of figuring his way out. There are some situations where he looks kind of lost out there. He doesn't know what to do. There was the game against Anaheim that he was kind of looking around. The Sharks need to clear the puck, and Will Smith was kind of skating around. He looked like he needed to make a line change, but he was far away from the bench, and he was trying to figure out if he should dump the puck or go for a line change, and he kind of just looked like his controller was turned off in an NHL game where he kind of skated around for a bit before he kind of did something. You could tell he's still figuring things out, which is not a big deal. Again, this is something that's expected, but we were hoping that, the other acquisitions the Sharks got for the off-season were kind of make up for that, and so far it just looks like things again for the Sharks are just not good at all. There's no cohesiveness. The passing is sloppy. Everyone just seems to be running around, and when the opposing team comes in to try and score on them, and the Sharks just collapse way too much in front of the net, and it looks like it just screens whoever's in net, and they're just giving up way too many chances and opportunities. Now, going back to Will Smith and his early season struggles, I want to just reiterate how, it's his first season. He's still figuring things out. He's only 19 years old, and I want to compare it to Eklund's first season. Now, it's not really an apples-to-apples comparison. Smith is a center, and he already started in the second line in the season, and now he's kind of dropped down to the third line, but either way, he's still getting decent amount of minutes for a kid. as a center, which is not easy. His face-off percentage right now is 27.1%. Not great, but at least he's not losing everything out there. He's winning about 1 in 3, which isn't terrible. And he's only played about 7 games so far out of the 9 because of the load management that they're planning, so he missed 2 games so far. Now, comparing to William Eklund's first season, Eklund obviously had a better season, like stats-wise. If you look, in his first 9 games in 2021-22, he had 4 assists for 4 points. He was a -3, but he was playing a little bit more than Eklund, about 14 minutes and 20 seconds. He has 8 shots as well. But the one thing we do remember is he looked just as lost as Will Smith. He definitely looked smaller than men out there because he was still just a 19-year-old kid as well. There was a lot of comparisons in terms of like just that rawness. There was talent, but he just looked a little lost in some cases. But fast forward, 3 seasons later, Eklund is now the best Shark on the team. It's not even a question. He's more aggressive. He's got 6 points in 8 games. He's driving a lot of the plays, and on top of that, when he's in front of the net and the opposing defensemen are trying to push him around, he's pushing back. He's showing some aggression. He's not afraid to put his face into other guys' gloves and stuff like that. He's going to fight back, basically. He's looking a lot better, and I think that, Will Smith in 3 years' time, when he grows into his body, he gets more familiar with the NHL, things are going to get better for him. But right now, I wouldn't worry so much about him, and if we think that if Smith, if we're relying on this 19-year-old kid to carry the Sharks into this outside of this slump, then we're going to have a lot more problems. In the offseason, we picked up Toffoli, Wenberg, all these other veteran guys to give the Sharks more confidence and to bring that potential offense in. And so far, it hasn't shown. As a matter of fact, a lot of these veterans are also the ones getting a lot of penalty trouble. So we can't really put all our hopes on Smith. I think when Celebrini does come back, it will improve the team because he is a capable second-line center. Just from what we've seen in the first game, he would probably be able to bring Wenberg down to the third line and will bring more dynamic scoring to the Sharks. And then Will Smith can kind of slot in as a winger, which might be able to maybe get in his first point at least. So we need to just wait things out and hope things get better, but there's no real potential thing that can solve the Sharks' problem right away. Now, one thing I think that the Sharks should try for the next game is to shake up their defensive pairings a bit. We've seen Wallman and Ceci as the top pairing, and then Ferrero and Ruda as the second pairing. I think they could do a little bit of a shake-up there. Even Thrun and Thompson, they're young and they look like there's a lot of potential there, but they are very inexperienced, and it looks like they're lost a little bit sometimes. I've seen Thompson out of position during a couple of goals, and Thrun kind of skating around in his off end as well. I think if we separate those two guys with maybe Wallman and Ceci, we might see, some better defense or even just maybe some more dynamic scoring from those guys just to balance it out. As of right now, like Wallman is our best defenseman, which is not saying much. In terms of Ferraro and Ruda, it's not bad. It's like, what can you expect from these guys? Ferraro is not really a puck-moving guy. He's not going to drive the offense. Neither is Ruda. It's looking like if you shake things up a bit, maybe things will work out well. I understand Warsofsky's philosophy is probably keep these guys playing together so they understand each other and build a chemistry and they can kind of work and get better and understand each other better. But honestly, I just don't see that this is going to be a sustainable thing unless we shake things up and see if there's a better way to work things around. And even the forward groups, we're trying to keep everything similar for now. Warsofsky did try to he brought Gushin to the first line and he brought Eklund down to the second line last night to see if maybe shaking that up would work. Obviously it did not. Yeah, the Sharks definitely need to try some other things because what we're doing right now just is not working at all. Now, I do want to be positive and end this on a good note. Some bright spots for the Sharks are, number one, obviously, Eklund. I can't stop talking about him. 6 points in 8 games. He looks more confident out there. He's driving the play. I can't say anything more than I was saying already before. I love his aggression out there. He's actually standing up for himself and his teammates, which is huge. In terms of advanced stats, William Eklund was the best at 1.99 expected goals. But after last night's game, Luke Cunnin jumped over that with his incredible play. He was actually 2.26 expected goals right now after last night. He was a force to be reckoned with. He has a lot of will, and he was just trying to force his way to get some goals last night, which didn't work out well, but he's looking like he belongs to this team. He's just trying to at least make things respectable. So that's another positive bright spot, but I wouldn't expect Cunnin to be our savior again either because he doesn't have the skill set that other players have. Another positive is Jack Thompson. Once he was in the lineup, you can see his offensive skill there. He's got 3 assists in 4 games. There's a lot to like about him, but at the same time, he's still very raw. And as a defenseman, he's sometimes looks a little lost, especially with another younger partner with Henry Thrun. They both kind of still need to work on communication and their positioning. But overall, like, the talent is there, and he will grow into becoming a better defenseman. Another positive is Tyler Toffoli. He's a great veteran presence. I'm sure in the locker room, he's probably the best calming kind of a guy to have. He has 7 points in 9 games. The only downside is, like last night, he was a little bit invisible. He needs a playmaker to dish him the puck. Eklund's that playmaker, but there's still those situations where it's just not working out for him. There's situations where you see like Toffoli's looking like you could sense he's a very good veteran, like the way he makes certain plays. But then other times you can't see him. Like last night, he was outclassed by Vegas. The whole team was, and Toffoli was pretty much it was easy to shut him down because he's the only real star that really had to worry about other than Eklund. And finally, Michael Granlund. He's a gem for the Sharks right now, the number 1 center for them. They're expecting too much from this guy. Like I said before, he's on a good team, he'd be a third-line center perfectly, but he's expected to be a first-line center. He's playing the best defenseman every night, the best forwards every night, and he is delivering points, which is awesome to hear. He has 10 points in 9 games, 4 goals, 6 assists. The downside is he's also getting a lot of penalties because of that. Because he's playing better players, he's got like the other team players on the Sharks. He's got to stick up in the wrong times. When he's a little bit slow-footed, he's going to use that to get him tripping calls and hooking calls, and that has not been the good side of him. So again, it's because he just doesn't have the talent level that he's playing against. But the fact that he has 10 points in 9 games so far, it's remarkable, and he does drive the play. He knows how to get in front of the net. He's a very smart player. And another positive is Macklin Celebrini is coming back, and he will even out the balance of everybody, and I'm very confident that he'll slot in nicely as a second-line center, and if he grows, he might end up taking that first spot by the end of the season, and Granlund might be a little bit more comfortable as a second-pairing center. All right, let's break down this past week's games, starting with the San Jose Sharks and the Anaheim Ducks on October 22nd. Now, Mackenzie Blackwood would start his 200th NHL game, which is a nice career milestone for him. Unfortunately, things wouldn't really go his way. This is the type of game that the Sharks were expected to maybe get their first win. The Ducks are in the bottom of the standings, just like the Sharks, even though they are a little bit better. They're a little bit farther along in their rebuild. But this is the one opportunity you really could have thought the Sharks could get a win out of this. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be the case. So in the first minute, Anaheim gets a penalty. Robbie Fabry high sticks Ferrero. Anaheim ends up killing that penalty. And in the first 3 minutes, the Sharks would end up getting a penalty. Thrun would get a delay of game. And during that time, right after the penalty was called, it was 2-on-1 to Wenberg and Gushin. It looked like it went in, but it hit the crossbar and post. There was great pressure from the Sharks. Eklund standing up for himself, and the Sharks would kill off that penalty, and right after the penalty is killed off, there's a 2-on-1, and Wenberg passes to Gushin, and it looked like when Gushin shot, it went in. It hit the crossbar and the post, but it seemed to bounce off quickly. There was a little bit of confusion there, but it would be no goal in the end. Right after, there's great pressure from the Sharks. Eklund stands up for himself after a whistle in front of the Anaheim defenseman, and the Sharks were cycling it very nicely in the offensive zone. But about 9 minutes in, Ty Dellandrea gets a tripping penalty, and the Sharks would have to kill that one off. Immediately, the first face-off win is kind of a weird, fumbly, bouncy puck that would end up going into Blackwood's stick. It was an awkward bounce. It almost went in, and the Sharks just looked really, really awkward there. Nico Sturm did get a shorthanded chance. He hits the crossbar. The Ducks set up twice with no good chances to actually score, but they did get their cycle going. The Sharks would kill that penalty as well. About 11 minutes in, Gushin uses his speed to get a good shot. He attacked someone for the puck by the boards, and when he shot it, he had great energy. Another 2-on-1 for the Sharks as well. Goodrow would pass it to Smith, but it was saved. And then Eklund draws an Anaheim turnover with his speed. Sharks get another chance in the offensive zone. Dostal makes a save. Then there was a shot against Blackwood where the D-man shot. It was tipped. Blackwood does make the save, so Blackwood is showing that he has a lot of his skill there. Couldn't see anything, but he made a good save. And Granlund would end the period with a tripping penalty. So at the end of the period, the Sharks would have 3 penalties, and the highlight would be Gushin and Eklund. They looked hungry out there. They looked great. But in the end, the Sharks are just playing shorthanded to start the game, which is not a good thing. All right, in the second period, the Sharks would kill off that penalty, and the Ducks would get 0 shots on goal. At this time, the Ducks are actually 0 for 20 on the power play for the year. After the penalty's done, Kostin takes a slap shot from the point. Sturm goes for the rebound, and nothing goes in. Gushin passes to Zetterlund for a breakaway, and it's saved by Dostal again. Vetrano has an easy shot from the outside, but Blackwood makes the save. And Wallman then has an easy shot from the outside for the Sharks, but then Dostal makes a save. So it's a little bit of back and forth, but they're very low percentage opportunities. This is when the Sharks are in the O-zone. Thompson gets a shot from the point. Wenberg's trying to screen Dostal, but Dostal saves it. Granlund then was tripped by Dostal's stick. No call there. And in the first 6 minutes of the second period, Will Smith would get a tripping call. Anaheim has a power play. And this is the 4th penalty for the Sharks in a row at the time. They're just looking very slow, sluggish. They're using their sticks in the wrong areas. And during the power play, Wallman blocks a shot. Gauthier has an empty net, but he misses. 6 minutes and 56 seconds, Troy Terry scores a power play goal. It's a snipe from the slot. He was given way too much space for a bad line change from the Sharks, and he just has all the time in the world to make that kind of a shot. Now afterward, Eklund shows his speed. He goes onside with the puck and almost has a wraparound goal. On the other side, Vetrano gets robbed by Blackwood. Eklund blocks a shot, an unprotected spot in his ankle. He looks a little sore. Thompson blocks a shot right afterwards, and there's just so much pressure from Anaheim, but Blackwood would freeze the puck just to slow things down. Blackwood stops Gauthier from a backdoor pass. Smith tries a little weird dipsy doodle with the puck on his defensive end. It looked really sloppy, and it ends up turning it over to somebody else. So that just goes to show more of that Smith inexperience. Back in college last year, he would have maybe made that move and looked like a stud, but you can't do that in the show without looking like a fool, or at least knowing who you're doing that against. Now Thompson gets a shot. It's saved by Dostal. Then on the way back, Troy Terry gets a shot. Blackwood makes an awkward save, and right then and there, Wallman gets a roughing penalty for protecting Blackwood from Strome. It's a good penalty to take, and Strome ends up also taking a penalty as well, so it's an offset 4-on-4 for a little bit. Granlund gets a shot on a 2-on-1. It's saved, but he gets his rebound for a wraparound, and he passes it to Smith, but that's blocked. Dostal freezes the puck after that. Then Thompson jumps up on a play for a shot, but it's blocked by an Anaheim defenseman. Blackwood stops McGinn from a 2-on-1 chance. Terry shoots. Blackwood makes another save. Lundstrom takes a puck to the face and a pad save doing the splits. So there's a lot of good pressure from the Sharks to end the period. Smith shoots from the point, hits the post. Delanger tries to shoot for an open net, but he falls down, and that would end the second period. So after 2 periods, the Sharks' momentum was looking a little bit better. It seems that they're going to be a common factor for all these games. The Sharks start really, really slow, but then once they get their momentum going, they seem to actually kind of pick things up. Randy Hahn mentions a third period that is the biggest problem for the Sharks this early in the season, where they get a lot of the goals against. Their Ducks pressure in the first 2 minutes. Carlson has a backhand shot, but it's saved by Blackwood. Rude is shaken up from a hit in the corner. He falls awkwardly on the Anaheim player. CC does a nice toe drag deep to the slot and passes. That's one positive thing about CC. Surprisingly, his defense isn't that good, but he does show some flashes of this offensive puck possession, which is nice. And then there's an Anaheim penalty, holding for Dumoulin. It's a great spinorama by Eklund on the power play to evade Fowler, and he gets a nice shot on goal. So Sharks would finally get on the board with their first power play goal from Mikhail Granlund from a shot from the outside, and Wenberg screening Dostal. And Thompson would get an assist for that. But immediately right after, Will Smith gets another tripping penalty. Just another play where the stick's just in the wrong place. Leo Carlsson would score a power play goal. The CC misses this check in that one. It was a tic-tac-toe goal. And the first 6 minutes after that, Anaheim's pushing pressure on Blackwood. They have the momentum. Blackwood makes a save from a screen shot, and Anaheim is starting to show some more momentum. They're putting pressure on Blackwood, but Blackwood is making some saves even though he's badly screened. And about 6.5 minutes in, you can see Barclay Goodrow and Radko Gudas are kind of exchanging some words. They're not fighting, but they're roughing a little bit. They're trying to goad each other into getting a penalty. Nothing comes of it. A little bit later, Smith turns over the puck in the offensive zone through a sloppy pass. He's trying to be fancy again, and in trying to stop that, CC hooks Vetrano and gets a penalty. Arguably, it's a pretty weak one, but it's a call. So Anaheim gets yet another power play from Will Smith, or from a Will Smith play that's not directly from him, but indirectly, CC gets a penalty from the giveaway. During the power play, Lacombe hits the post from the point. Blackwood saves a shot from the slot. McGinn whiffs on a point-blank shot. The PK is killed by the Sharks. Now, in this situation I was talking about earlier, Smith looked a little tired. He needed a line change, but he looked lost on how to do it. He was on the defensive zone. He was like chasing a guy with the puck, and he ended up kind of looking at the bench, skating around a bit, and then he ended up getting possession and dumping it down. But you could tell he was kind of just didn't know what to do before he made the line change. Just one of those, he'll learn, he'll get better at this, but you can really see his rookie rawness in that situation. About 15 minutes in, Blackwood makes a save on Strome from a close shot. Sharks get pressure in the offensive zone. It's eventually cleared by Anaheim. The second attempt of the Sharks pressuring Anaheim, but no shots on goal. Ducks are starting to waste a little bit of time. They're clearing the puck out. Blackwood gets pulled at 6-on-5 in 17 minutes and 34 seconds. The Sharks crash the net. Dostal makes a save. But in the 18th minute, Killorn gets an empty net goal. And this is another mistake by Will Smith. He gets bullied in the corner with the puck. He's trying to get some offense going. He ends up losing a 50-50 puck battle. Killorn picks it from him, and he scores that goal. So just overall from that Anaheim game, you could say Will Smith had a really, really rough night. He had 2 penalties, just really sloppy penalties. That one goal that CC did get the penalty for, you could say that Smith's turnover was the reason that got the penalty and then led up to all that. And then that third goal, obviously the empty net goal, Smith was he's just a smaller guy compared to the NHL guys, and he just gets out muscled, loses the puck, and there's nothing he can do. Gushin looked great in the first period, but he was kind of invisible for the rest of the game. And obviously Eklund was the best player on the ice. He was hungry. He made some really nice plays. He stood up for himself, showed some aggression. But the Sharks were just taking a lot of lazy penalties. Now I'm going to break down the Sharks and Kings game on Thursday, October 25th. In the first period, the Kings would start hot. There was all the pressure on the San Jose zone. It's actually lucky that they only had 3 shots in 5 minutes. In 4 minutes and 31 seconds, Jordan Spence would score from Tyler Moore, and it would be 1-0 Kings. Toffoli would cough up the puck in the offensive zone and leading to a 3-on-2. 6 minutes in, Zetterlund has a chance, but it's saved by Riddick. 8 minutes in, Eklund has a good takeaway for a chance on goal. But 8 minutes and 47 seconds, Foegele would score, and it would make it 2-0 Kings. Logan Thompson was out of position, and Thrun were kind of like skating around. They looked like they were completely out of sorts. And in 6 minutes and 47 seconds, Lauren Foegele would score another goal, making it 2-0 Kings. Thompson and Thrun were kind of out of position. They're skating around. You can really see the youth and inexperience of them. They're kind of they didn't know what was going on. Thrun was all the way on the right side, and they're both kind of high on the slot on the right side, leaving the net completely open. And Eklund tried to back check to make up for it, but it just did not work out in that way. 11 minutes and 36 seconds again, Foegele would score, making it 3-0 from a nice tip. There was a lot of traffic in the net. Blackwood could not see it, so it's not on him. Granlund was battling in front. Thompson and Thrun were again out of position. Is it a communication issue? I don't know. But these two guys, they just really need to kind of figure it out, or maybe separate them each next time on a line with a partner that's more experienced. And 16 minutes and 40 seconds in, during a San Jose power play, Logan Thompson has a chance, but he fumbled defending it, but no goal. In the second period, and the 11 minutes left, the shots were 21-7 for the Kings. The chances were all for LA. Granlund had a chance on an empty net from a bounce, but there was a pad save from Riddick. San Jose would finally get on the board from Mikhail Granlund in the power play. 10 minutes and 5 seconds in, Toffoli was screening the goalie. It looked really nice, and Granlund had a wrist shot outside the hash marks. It was just a perfect snipe. In the third period, there was a lot of giveaways by the Sharks. There was one post shot from LA, and it was from a giveaway from the Sharks, giving the LA chance to have a breakaway. With 59.2 seconds left, Granlund would score his second goal of the game, and it's almost the exact same goal as the last one. Instead of Toffoli screening, it was actually Zetterlund that was screening Riddick, and Granlund shot from the top hash marks, almost the exact same spot. But that would be the end of the game, and the final would be 3-2 Kings. The Sharks, again, making a lot of terrible giveaways. The penalties were a lot better, but they can't continue doing this kind of stuff. Thompson's was a defensive liability with Thrun. He did have some good offensive chances, but it just looks like this pairing is, even though they're not seeing a lot of minutes as the third pairing, there's a lot of that inexperience and the lack of either communication or just they don't know where they need to be. Sharks, like I said before, were a lot better on the penalties though. And the game stats for the Kings and Sharks, the Kings would outshoot the Sharks 30-26, but the Sharks were better on the faceoffs. They were 53.4%, and they actually were better on the power play. They scored 2 power play goals out of 6 chances, and they were really good at staying out of the box. They were only in the box for two penalties, and the Kings would not score on any of them. The Sharks did out-hit the Kings, but that's more of a sign that the Kings had more possession than the Sharks. They had fewer giveaways than the Kings. Kings had 21 giveaways. The Sharks had 13, so the Sharks were a little bit more aggressive in terms of trying to get some kind of an opportunity. They had 9 takeaways over the Kings' 8 takeaways. The Sharks will see the Kings again on October 29th in San Jose. Hopefully they'll have a better game. It looks like they showed that this game that they can keep up with the Kings. The Kings did outplay them a bit, but the Sharks, just looking at the stats, if they just tighten up a little bit defensively, be a little bit smarter with their sticks, they should be able to actually beat the Kings on Tuesday, but we'll have to see. And now let's tear down the Sharks and Golden Knights game last night on October 26th. It would be William Karlsson's first game of the season for Vegas, coming from an injury. Gushin would be promoted to the first line and play with Toffoli and Granlund. Eklund would go down to the second line to play with Wenberg and Zetterlund. I wouldn't call it more of a demotion. It was more just trying to shake things up to try and see if Eklund's energy can maybe bring some more scoring for that second line that heavily needed it. And in the first period, William Karlsson would waste no time coming back to the Vegas Golden Knights, showing why he's such a valuable player. He would make a crazy play to make a pass to Tanner Pearson, who would score his first goal. It's 1-0 Vegas 2 minutes in. Almost 4 minutes in, Zetterlund blocks a White Cloud shot. He would go down. He looked like he was lumbering to the bench. He did not look comfortable. He looked like he was going to stay for a little bit, but he ended up going to the back. And 3 minutes and 47 seconds in, Eichel would score from a nice pass from Stone. It would be 2-0 Vegas, and the shots on goal at this point were 5 for Vegas and none for San Jose. It was a beautiful one-timer from Stone to Eichel, and you could see just the difference in skill level between these two teams just from this first 4 minutes of the game. And it came from sloppy passing from the Sharks. They were kind of looking scattered in the defensive zone that led up to that goal. The 12 minutes and 34 seconds left in the first, Sharks would get their first shot of the game. The Sharks were starting to get chances, but they were very low percentage shots from the outside. They seemed to be too afraid to be aggressive. What I've noticed right in the beginning, anytime Vegas had the puck, the Sharks would kind of just stand their ground and kind of just get in the way between Vegas and the goal net. They were not trying to be aggressive and push back. You could tell they were afraid of the skill of Vegas, that they're going to do something. So the Sharks are almost frozen, just trying to get in the way without trying to, push or be aggressive and force Vegas to make a bad mistake. Now 13 minutes and 30 seconds in, Sharks try to clear the puck. Vegas catches the puck in midair, just showing more how the Sharks are just frustrated and they can't seem to do anything right. Vanacek would make a big save from a wraparound pass around an open guy in front of the net that someone would try and make a pass to there. Randy let us know that Zetterlund was still out in the back, still trying to heal up from that block shot earlier. And 16 minutes and 46 seconds, Howden would score from a nice hurdle pass. It'd be 3-0 Vegas. Rudy couldn't catch the pass from Hurdle. He tried to get in the way, and Howden just skates right into the net uninterrupted and scores a nice goal. And in 19 minutes, 9 seconds in, White Cloud would get a penalty for slashing. The Sharks would get their first power play of the game. They had a nice power play set up and passed around well before the period ended with 1 minute and 10 seconds left on the Sharks power play. Now, after the first, you could say the Sharks passing was incredibly sloppy. They had not come out on time, starting to play the game. They were letting Vegas bully their way in front of the net and try to get it to Vanacek, and they let a lot of open chances there, and they just were not aggressive in defending at all. They just kind of let Vegas do whatever they wanted. So in period 2, started off okay, a little bit better for the Sharks. Eklund would crash the net. He stands up for himself when the defense is pushing him around during the whistle. Eklund is just showing that aggression just like he did against Anaheim. He's not holding back. He's not afraid to do what he has to do to get to the dirty areas to score goals. 5 minutes and 24 seconds into the second period, Luke Cunnin would get a high stick from a sloppy stick lift. Eklund was disrupting the Vegas power play setup with the poke checks. The Sharks do get a chance after the power penalty is killed off. They get a chance against Vegas. Zetterlund gets 2 good shots on net. And in 10 minutes and 13 seconds into the second period, Granlund would score from a nice feed from Eklund. Eklund dished it to Granlund behind the net, and Granlund would shovel the puck in the net. And it gets Ferraro fired up. You can see him getting all excited and trying to get the Sharks, into the mood of trying to just get more energy to score some goals. And you love to see that from Mario Ferraro, one of the leaders of the team. And right after, with the Sharks' momentum, Shea Theodore would actually get a tripping call. Cunnin would draw the penalty immediately after the Sharks' goal, after he gets a nice breakaway. So that momentum does help that out a bit. But during that power play, William Karlsson would score 11 minutes and 10 seconds in. Out of a sloppy play. So the puck gets dumped in towards the Sharks' end. Vanecek tried to beat William Karlsson to the puck. He goes way out of the net. And the Sharks, no one tried to attack Karlsson at all after Vanecek loses the puck to him. So Vanecek's trying to get back to the net to get in position. Meanwhile, 3 Sharks are just blocking the front of that, trying to block the way, and Karlsson gets an easy goal. This was because of the sloppy passing in the power play. Vegas were just catching pucks all between the passes before they would dump it down and lead to that. As soon as that's done, 12 minutes in, Goodrow would get a hooking penalty. Now, this I wouldn't blame on Goodrow. It was a very weak-looking hook. It was probably a garbage call from the refs, but what can you do? And during the power play, Sharks are falling down on the ice. They looked very sloppy. They're just being outskated. They couldn't stop any passes. Vanecek catches 2 shots from awkward bounces. Luckily, nothing would come of it. 15 minutes in again, Logan Thompson would get a slashing call. He slashed Eichel on a breakaway. It was a necessary penalty, but if everyone was in position, it probably would have been preventable. Samsonov sees the Sharks changing during the power play, and he gets the puck. He passes the puck from his end all the way to Barbashev and gives Barbashev almost a clean breakaway. It would be saved by Vanecek. After the Sharks tail that penalty, there's a good chance for Henry Thrun. He pinches and gets a shot in a wide open net, but that's saved. And with about 19 minutes left, there'd be a penalty from Grundstrom. And with 18 minutes and 36 seconds into the second period, Grundstrom would get a holding penalty. And less than a minute into that, the Vegas Golden Knights would score yet again, and it'd be 5-1 Vegas. Hurdle was doing a great job screening, and Theodore made a great pass to Dorofeyev, and that would be a goal for them. But on the other side of it, Nico Sturm would score in about 16 seconds. He just sniped it right away. It was a lucky bounce onside. It goes to his feet. Samsonov probably should have had it. Looking back on those kinds of goals against he got last year with the Leafs, it was kind of that same thing. He looked a little bit out of position. He was caught off his guard, but Sturm would take advantage of that and score that goal. The period would end 5-2 for Vegas. The Sharks looked a lot better than the first, but they would take a lot of just a lot of penalties, some necessary, some unnecessary. But at least the Sharks were showing a little bit more life. The Sharks were very cohesive, forcing Vanecek to make a lot of ridiculous saves and to wander out and to get the puck. You could tell there's a lot of things that are stuck in the Sharks' head. They don't really trust each other, even though it's not on purpose. You can tell that there's just a little bit of anxiety, and there's really a lot of mistakes happening. The Sharks were showing a little bit better aggression. Granlund did try a Michigan goal with 2 minutes left, but he fell awkwardly. So there's just a lot of that, overthinking and trying too hard from the Sharks in this game. Now, in the third period, the Sharks were chasing the puck instead of staying positionally sound at the beginning of the third. They were not covering man-to-man. They were kind of skating around, flopping around. And after 2 minutes in, the Sharks collapsed in front of the net with Vegas crashing. A Vegas guy misses an open net from a backdoor pass. 3.5 minutes in, the best Shark shift of the game. There was a great possession for a while between Eklund, Toffoli, and Granlund. Eklund would just be driving the play from behind the net, but nothing would come of that. Almost 5 minutes in, Nico Sturm blocks a shot. He earned himself a second chance in this game, in my opinion, after his great defensive play, and he had that one goal. He was kind of in the doghouse, in my opinion. He was kind of seeing his way, weeding himself out of the Sharks team, but it looks like he kind of gave himself at least another argument to survive a few more games to show that he still belongs in this lineup. So 6 minutes in, Granlund takes a hit from the boards in the offensive zone. He looks a little rough, but he still plays and gets a good shot on net. Then he goes for a line change. Eklund has a nice pass to Ruda, but it's saved by Samsonov. And in 11 minutes and 10 seconds in, Mark Stone would score a goal. Vanacek was completely screened. There was so many Vegas guys and Sharks guys in front of the net. Vanacek could not have seen it. It's 6-2 Vegas. And 2.5 minutes in, Luke Cunnin would get a goal from Zetterlund. It's 6-3 Sharks. Zetterlund did a nice spin around from behind the net and shovels the puck in Samsonov. Cunnin's on the other side of the net, and he ends up scoring that goal. 16 minutes in, Vegas is killing the clock. They're just dumping the puck. You can tell they're just want to go home and just end this game. And in 17 minutes and 7 seconds, Howden would score, making it 7-3 Vegas. They caught the Sharks changing, and there was a defenseman that was doing the line change, so everyone was just out of position. Hurdle makes a nice little play, a backhand pass, and the Sharks stumble around a bit, and Howden would score on the left side. Now, near the end of the game, Randy Hahn would mention that Sharks have only scored goals from 9 different players versus Vegas have scored goals from 16 different players this season, just showing how the offense is really not clicking and there's no dynamic offense and depth for the Sharks so far. I mean, it's not really a surprise. Vegas is a contender, and the Sharks are obviously bottom feeders, so it's not a surprise that big difference there. With 33 seconds left, there was a beautiful glove save from Vanacek, point blank, but the Sharks would end up losing the game 7-3. The Sharks now were the first team to ever lose back-to-back seasons, be 0-9 in back-to-back seasons. Vanacek did make really great saves. He did what he had to do. The only blemish I would say for Vanacek was when he wandered out of his net during that power play. I don't know what he was thinking. He was better off just maybe staying in his end and trying to make the save. So in the end, the Sharks would lose. Eklund did look good again. He was creating a lot of chances, showed a lot of tenacity. Toffoli, in my opinion, was mostly invisible. There were some good chances with that line, but Toffoli mostly didn't do much. Sharks were afraid to apply a lot of pressure in the game. There was a lot of sloppy passing. Expected, because Vegas is a wagon. They're supposed to be a contender for the cup. And the Sharks are obviously just a step below, but the same mistakes just keep happening. They keep getting penalties, dumb penalties, the passing sloppy. They start the game off with all this kind of like mental frustration, and it just needs to change. So the next game, I want to see the Sharks come out and just play a tight defense. They don't need to be getting a lot of shots on goal, but they need to minimize the other team's chances to get shots. Just cleaner passes, not getting dumb penalties, and that would probably just be an improvement upon anything else. If they can end a game losing 1-0 or 2-0, that would be a win in my book. And focus on the scoring later, because the scoring is a talent thing. It's an experience with talent thing, but when it comes to defense, that can be taught. That can be disciplined in, and the Sharks do not have that discipline right now. They're overthinking everything. They're trying to do too much, and it's really, really shows. Now, I understand looking at this team, things look pretty dire, but I keep wanting to bring up the fact that this is still a very young team. We're still in the first full, true rebuild year. Celebrini is out, the best potential player on the team that can even get better. So I would say there's a lot of things to worry about. We don't want to see the Sharks go 0-82, but at the same time, there are some good things to look forward to. For one, the San Jose Barracuda are a freaking wagon this year. As of right now, they've played 6 games. They have 5 wins. They've only lost 1 game. And there are just a lot of players that are just shining on this team. One player of note that everyone's excited about is Yaroslav Askarov. He looks like the real deal. He already looks like he's too good for the AHL. And if it wasn't for how bad the Sharks have been performing, he could deserve a promotion. Maybe by the time the trade deadline happens, we could see either Blackwood or Vanacek get traded and see Askarov get more ice time. But as of right now, let him dominate in the AHL. He's got 2 shutouts already. He's just playing absolute fantastic hockey, and he's so confident out there. He's got that swagger that you really, really love to see. And when it comes to the NHL, you really would need to have that confidence. So far, he's one good player that stands out. Colin Graff is another great player. He's got 9 points in 6 games. He's been really, really good out there. But one player that I really, really have enjoyed watching is Luca Cagnoni. In 6 games, he's a defenseman, obviously. He's got 4 goals, 3 assists, and 7 points. He has just been so dominant out there. He looks like he's better than any other defenseman, any other player on the ice right now. He's everywhere. He's buzzing around, and it's good to see that the Sharks actually have a potential offensive puck-moving defenseman that can really make a difference. I don't think it'd be a good idea to bring him up full-time quite yet. I see that this the San Jose Barracuda team should go for a run for Calder Cup this year. I think that would really benefit their experience for next year. And I know it's hard to say because Sharks fans hate to suffer, but if maybe we bring these guys up once in a while, 1 or 2 games, and bring them back down just to give them a taste of the show, that might be the better option right now. But I don't think bringing them all up is a great idea. I don't think having your AHL squad all come up at once is going to really fix the problems that they have here. Not to mention they already have a lot of players under contract that are veterans that are already here. The one thing that could probably fix the Sharks right now is shaking up the defense a bit. Vlasic's out and Bakmadulin is still out. I think having those 2 guys could make things a little bit better. I know Vlasic does not have a lot of great credibility right now based on his last few years and this contract comparable of what he's bringing, but I do want to remind you that last year in the second half of the year, Vlasic did show a lot of better effort, defensive responsibility, whatever you want to call it. He's obviously not that first line pairing defensive that he was years ago that could shut people down, but he still is a capable veteran. And now let's look at the Sharks' schedule. Looking this week, they have 4 games. On Monday, they're going to go into Utah and play their first game in Utah in Sharks Utah history at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. The next day, they're going to be back in San Jose and play the Kings in a rematch again, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. On Thursday, they'll have their shot against the Blackhawks again for redemption at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And on Sunday, they'll be playing the Vancouver Canucks at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. Out of all these games, I would say their best chance is probably against Chicago. They're the worst team of the week that they're going to play. The worst team in the NHL that they're going to play. The Sharks are going to play this week. They played okay against the Kings. The Kings did outperform them, but based on the numbers, there is also a chance the Sharks could beat the Kings. I am hoping to see the Sharks at least get 1 win by the end of the month. It's looking pretty tough, though, because Utah looks like a pretty good team as well. We'll just have to see what the Sharks have to bring. I think it's time that the defensive pairings and even the forward pairings have a nice little shake-up just to see if the Sharks can find some kind of chemistry with other guys, just because what else do they have to lose? They don't have a win yet. They don't have many goals, so they just have to see what works out well, and it can't hurt just to shake things up. So we'll see what Wersofsky decides to do with this lineup for the week. And that'll do it again for the Teal Teardown Hockey Podcast. I want to thank you again for listening. I appreciate you wherever you are. And if you want to find more content on the Teal Teardown Hockey Podcast, you can find us on Instagram, X, and on YouTube, as well as Spotify and all the other platforms for podcasts. Thanks again, and see you next week. Take care.